Thank you so much for inviting us here, and we are really excited to be joining the Global Festival of Innovation and Social Technology. My name is Sihle Gcilitshana, and I'll be moderating this session titled The Importance of Collaboration in the Civic Tech Space. I'm joined by a few members of some Civic Tech African organizations, and we can't wait to jump into today's discussion. So, as I've mentioned, what the session topic is about, we as the Civic Tech Innovation have invited a few of our partner organizations of our newly established Regional Ambassador Program to reflect and share on their experiences of working together. Now, this session aims to unpack the different forms of collaborative work, some of the challenges that are associated with collaborative work, and ultimately the essential components to successful collaborations. If you are a civic tech actor who is interested in gaining insights about how to leverage collaborations with mutual and shared purpose, then you are in the right space. Now, just to quickly introduce the few people we have on the call with me today, the first person is Tim, who is representing CoCreation Hub. The next person is Hamid, who is representing Chad Innovation Hub, as well as Munya, who is representing Magamba Network. So I'm going to start over with you, Tim. Can you please quickly introduce yourself and your organization and tell us a bit about the work that CoCreation Hub does, and specifically an instance in which the organization has had to undertake some collaborative work?
All right, thank you very much. I'm very happy to be joining this conversation. Hello, everyone. So as you heard, my name is Tim Nagori Moirore. I lead the technology and society practice here at CoCreation Hub. So as CoCreation Hub, we are Africa's largest innovation and technology hub. And really, we are looking to build an inclusive Pan-African innovation ecosystem. So we operate in different areas, but today I'll specifically speak to technology and society, where we explore the opportunities and threats of technology on the African society. So a huge part of that, of course, then is in the area of governance and elections, really working with government or with innovators and entrepreneurs to see how we can really, either if it's increased citizen engagement, promote public sector service delivery, or just good governance. So from in terms of collaboration, as our name suggests, Co-Creation Hub, we're all about that collaboration and really co-creating with different organizations. So to say, not to reinvent the wheel, but where we can do it, we'll do it, or where we can support other organizations or better placed people to be able to solve some of this Africa's especially toughest challenges. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. Now, before I move on, I did want to just quickly pick up on a nugget. So basically, Co-Creation
Mhm.
Hub has had both the experience of collaborating with other organizations as well as with government. What has
Yes.
been some of the defining um, differences between these forms of collaboration? Because I assume when it's organization to organization, it's a much
Mhm.
smaller scale. But when it comes to partnering with the government for something as large as an election rollout and a campaign,
Mhm.
that
Yeah.
takes quite a bit of coordination.
For sure. I can tell you when it comes to government, one of the biggest challenges, of course, is bureaucracy,
Mhm.
or even just being able to really engage these different policymakers. Often they may tend to be almost out of reach. So that definitely has been a challenge. But our approach at Co-Creation Hub, like I mentioned, really is more collaborative rather than approaching government and saying, "Look, we are here to sort of inspect or to there's a word, sorry, I'm looking for,
Hold
uh,
account.
oversight or that sort of thing." So we say we want to collaborate and we want to engage you. Like I said, for us, it's about an inclusive Pan-African innovation ecosystem. So that means bringing everyone to the table and seeing what can come out of that. Yeah.
That's an important point to reflect on, and I'll come back to it later. Hamid, I'm going to bring you into the conversation now. Can you please tell us a bit about yourself, your organization, and any experiences you've had with collaborating in the past?
Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me. Hello, Sihle. Hello, team, and hello, Magama. Right? If I, my name is Hamid. I'm from Chad, Central Africa. I'm a IT engineer. I study in India, and and I'm leading the digital transition of the Chad, working with the government under the National Committee for the digital transition of Chad. And also, I am the founder of Chad Innovation. Chad Innovation is a tech hub. The aim is to develop inclusive, wealth creating community. And we have the will of empowering youth through innovation, entrepreneurship, civic tech, and especially to develop a tech for good community in Chad. We are also a hub for workshops and conferences and session related to technology, business, society, and also infrastructure. Like our movement aims, biggest aim is to strengthen the economic empowerment of young people through social entrepreneurship, innovation, and entrepreneurial leadership, with the goal of developing an inclusive, wealth creation, innovative community. And you want me to talk about collaboration? We did a lot of working with the government. We have the institutional support from the government and the finance from the founder, like UNDP Chat, FHE 360, and USAID. So we work a lot in civic platform for like the COVID-19, giving assistance to people, and also Chad is going through a transition, and we built a civic tech platform that broadcasting the peace and union message, and it was under the Ministry of National Dialogue and Unity. And we are working also on a platform with the support of still UNDP, to build a platform that will support and communicate for the national dialogue, the coming national dialogue. We want to make it easy for the people to understand, so we are translating into the local languages and broadcasting them, and also gather all the information together for the government to decide. So we have been through a lot of challenges, Tim said, for the government is the bureaucracy things, and sometimes they feel like there is a gap between us and them in terms of technology, and they cannot get us. Sometimes they believe like we are an outsider, or we are being pushed by outside, like to do something with from So those are one of the challenges, and other is sometimes is inside. We have a project on getting developers, training developers and things like that. And also we are using a platform, thanks to our collaboration with a network of French companies. They need some Java developers, and we couldn't find it on the ground here, because we've been testing a lot of people through the skill value platform, and it's a kind of difficult to find people. So now we are restructuring the thing, and we are looking to first teach people how to code, and then have some sort of contract with this company, in terms of building their ITs, in terms of building solution to them. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that, Hamid. I did want to pick up on the point around some of the challenges when it comes to obviously engaging with bureaucratic structures, much like Tim had mentioned. What are some of the ways you have found to be useful in how to get around that? Because the truth of it is that in a lot of contexts in Africa, civic tech organizations actually need to collaborate with institutions such as government, and balancing the different interests of the parties can be something that's very tricky, right? So from an organization perspective, you can see the potential of your innovation and the change and impact that it can make. But from the other end, the interested party perhaps is a bit hesitant, unsure about, the feasibility of the plan that you are suggesting. So yeah, I think let's bring both you and Tim back in on this. Is that what are some of the ways and the tactics that you both have applied to try and get around some of those challenges? Hamid,
All right.
you can, okay, you can go first, Tim.
Sorry about that. So in terms of tactics, and I think I already alluded to it, is really the approach, especially when it comes to government, and really being able to articulate that it's sort of a win-win for both actors. And that really, one of the things that I realized even as we engaged, and I'm particularly speaking to government actors, is that really selling that value proposition. Yeah. So to the bureaucrat or the technocrat in government, really selling the value of this engagement. On the side of, I like to call it the supply side, but on the side of the innovators or entrepreneurs, our approach has been a little similar because in Africa, of course, it's still a pretty nascent field. So we found many instances where either the entrepreneur, the innovator, doesn't really self-identify as a GovTech or a Civic Tech. So starting from that point and having this different events where we know that, okay, so we're bringing everyone to the table to then engage and maybe build a user case, either in the form of a design sprint, a hackathon, or even just we are well known for bringing people around pizza and drinks and just to engage on different areas now, in this case particularly the civic space or government. Yeah. So that's basically what how we approach it. Yeah.
Hamid, did you want to also come in then on how you approach getting around the challenges of collaborating with bureaucratic systems and institutions? Are you still there, Hamid? Okay.
Yes, I'm there. Like I'm just adding some tactics. It's about translating what you have. Sometimes there is a gap between when you are an engineer, you are an IT, and when you study a lot and you dig into research, you are at a level. Sometimes you are in your bill, like they said in French. You are into your comfort zone. You don't want to get out. So sometimes you should get out. And I use a tactic like one of my professor from the University of Texas. He said like grandmother talk. So it's like you have to explain the importance of what you do, like you are explaining to your grandmother. So, and you take your time, like you don't have to. Sometimes, we don't do the bureaucracies. You have to understand how they are working. Like from when should your letter come from, and which has to give the instruction, and how to follow up on this instruction. And sometimes, you have to come to them. Sometimes they think like those people who are using technology, they are high tech, and we are not at the
Mm.
same level. But once you join them, you talk to them, you speak to them, you stay with them, they will accept you. He's not like that guy, crazy guy, or he's not that, he's like us. And sometimes, for me and for my team, we go to sit with them, and sometimes we driving solution to them for free. Your computer, like, yeah, this is antivirus problem, and this is your network has this kind of problem, we can solve it. You can sit with them, and then they will see like, oh, he's a normal person, he's like us. And then
And we
slowly,
can
push it.
language,
The- and
essentially.
and for them, they said, like, the mindset is logic or emotional. So you have to play on that also. Sometimes when you see a person is really logic, you should like come backing up your argument with data and statistics, saying, see, with this it will help you get the statistic of a number of the people you are doing, and it's going to be good for you, and even for the funding, like people from UN or whatever, they can fund you, and through us we can team up, the public private partnership together, they will fund you. And we have to show them the way, and show them that we are not enemies. It's not them and us, but it's us together, in term of changing our countries. And sometimes that's the lacking part is we are two different world, their world and our world. And
And there needs to be a
because
bridge between the two, in a sense.
that's it,
Yeah.
that's it, that's it.
Okay. Okay. Thank you so much for that, Hamid. And Munya, we're finally going to be bringing you into the conversation. So now we've heard both from Tim and Hamid around their experiences, but can you also please just tell us who you are, what your organization does, and your experiences with collaborating? Perhaps it's from an organization to an organization perspective, or having partnered with government, as we've heard in the other examples before.
Okay. My name is Munya. I'm the program lead at Magamba Network in Zimbabwe. Our main civic tech initiative is called Open Parly Africa. So we work with parliaments to aggregate their data and make them more accessible. Essentially, we work with young people. They go into parliament and then they aggregate the information that's produced in Hansards, and we make it more visually appealing to Gen Zs. So we started off in Zimbabwe, and then we have Open Parly Somalia, Open Parly Nigeria, and Open Parly Zambia. I think our biggest challenge in collaborating has been working across the different regions, the language barrier that's there across the different countries. For example, when we were working in Somalia predominantly use their own local language. They've never been colonized, so they're very the Somali language is the predominant language. So it's different from other countries where English or French is the language. So for our project, when we had to launch it in Somalia, it didn't make sense for it to, even though the model that we had adopted was we're going to launch all these in-country platforms in every country. It didn't make sense for Somalia, so we had to literally change the model for that particular context because their language is their language. That's what would have made sense. So we changed it to Kalfadi, which means I think a meeting or a gathering of elders. And I think the challenge with that is that you're coming from Zimbabwe, where you're like Southern African country and you're English speaking, and we tend to have adopted some English traits that we have, and then when you work in a different context, when you then engage with Francophone Africa, you're not equipped or you don't know the language, so you collaborating with someone from a different region who speaks a different language becomes a challenge. So you have to adapt to their context or find a way of bridging that language divide and adapting things so that they meet the local context and the nuances that are there in that particular country.
Sure, quite a lot you've just given me to work with there, Munya. Firstly, let's quickly pick up on that regional aspect because it was something I did want to speak about. And perhaps, Tim, you can also share a bit about this because I know co-creation also works across different regions. So that regional landscape, I mean, there's the old age joke about how Africa is not a country, even though I think there's still quite a perception around that, but you don't really realize it until you're speaking about this very experience you're talking about. Everyone that is on this call identifies and self-identifies as African, and yet we have largely different experiences contextualized by where we grew up and what cultures and obviously what we've been exposed to. So let me hear from Tim first. What was CC Hub's experience, and even in the expansion of creating its other organization, iHub, and making that conscious decision to kind of broaden its spectrum and infiltrate other spaces, because I think that might be also why collaborations don't work. The idea that we're afraid about the unknown. We don't know how we're going to get over the language barriers. We don't know how we're going to work through the challenges, and yet Magamba Network and CC Hub are living examples and proof that, in fact, perhaps reaching over the ocean or to the other side of the grass might be something that is quite beneficial to both parties.
Thank you. I think for us, what really has worked, and you're absolutely correct in saying that we, even as Africans, we are as similar as we are different. So one of the things for us, I can tell you, like even being Kenyan and running a project in West Africa, in Nigeria, and GoVote. There are certain nuances that are actually very different, and really being able to rely on the team on the ground. Yeah. So for us, I think what has worked is we are a multidisciplinary, multicultural team. We have we have Nigerians working, we have Kenyans, we have Rwandese, and even, I guess, in many ways, as they say, innovation is local. Yeah. So being able to realize that, look, there's people on the ground who have a better understanding, or even a nuanced understanding, better than you. So really relying on that. And I think especially in the area that we work, relationship building is such an important thing. And being able to build some of these relationships will take, being able to speak the language. So I think, yeah, for us, I think that has been the biggest factor. Just really even relying on the people who are on the ground. Yeah.
And Munya, I want to bring you in here. So if we take the concept of bringing in people on the ground, like Tim has just introduced us to, in the context of Open Poly, you guys are working with the youth, right? So that is quite a dynamic, vibrant, kind of on the ground person that you have, that kind of moves, right, the collaboration, that moves the impact of the civic tech innovation. And I wanted to ask around those nuances that you were talking about in different countries, right? So what are the youth like, and how are they engaging parliamentary spaces in these different contexts?
Okay, so our main focus is with the Generation Z. So our approach mainly is around how we tackle it is before getting into an intervention in a particular country, we partner with a specific organization that understands that particular context, or that's similar to our organization in terms of like the DNA, the skill sets. So we find a common ground, a match, and then that becomes the foundation, and we build a relationship. There's lots of Skyping, lots of emails, and then we have a physical workshop where we have young people on the ground, because our design thinking method is that the young people know how they want to be communicated to by government officials. They platforms, and I think it differs with each region. But in Zimbabwe, you find that the young people are the drivers of social media. But in terms of platforms, it differs with each country. Like in Somalia, it was a different app. In Zimbabwe, it's WhatsApp. In Zambia, they predominantly gravitate towards radio. And I think in Nigeria, in some of the states, it's predominantly radio. But there's a different social media platforms, different media platforms that they gravitate towards. And instead of enforcing or parachuting as an intervention that they don't relate to, we'd rather like meet them where they are, in the spaces that they are, in the communities that they are, with using the tools that they have, that they are most comfortable with, and then designing the solution around those things, so that it's not like jarring for them to engage, because young people want to have fun. Predominantly, they just want cool, tech savvy, trendy things that make them feel cool. So we take that, and then we match it with the message and the program and the content, and then that becomes easier for them to assimilate and adapt, because for them it doesn't feel like it's anything new. It's something that they've already been doing. It's TikTok for them. It's Instagram. They're already on those platforms. So them then creating content on Instagram or TikTok becomes way easier than you trying to tell them to design an infographic or design an app or develop an app. They tend to take to it like fish to water.
As you were describing it, I could literally see the imagery forming in my head. I was like, yes, it is such a beautiful model, because it's exactly about meeting them where they're at. I love that. It also kind of ties into our CTIF theme from last year around hashtag DIY Africa, right? The idea that Africans are doing it for themselves, using and applying what they have and what they know now. Now, let's change gears a little bit and use some of the points that Munya had shared. And I want to pose questions to Hamid and to Tim, specifically around using the civic tech innovation itself as an enabler of the collaboration, right? So that's one thing that at CTIN we are really, really big about. And one example that we can make use of is just using our civic tech a database atlas essentially to create this regional ambassador program that we have, right? So unlike most civic tech organizations, we are not based in creating a tech specifically or creating the innovation, but really what we're hoping to be is a knowledge hub, a convening body, and basically leveraging the ability to bring in all of these different ties. And now without essentially the tech element of our database, this collaboration that we have in place doesn't exist. So the first part of the question is around the use and the application of civic tech as an enabler for the collaboration. And then secondly, whether or not your organizations have found that they have relied more on the tech now during COVID than they did before, right? So collaborations in the most basic nature are just literally working together, which could mean physically occupying the same space. But when we had COVID, we obviously were restricted in so many ways. And so really the broader question is what did collaboration or what has collaboration looked like under COVID-19? And to what extent has the civic tech innovation been an enabler for your respective organizations to be able to connect and work together? I think, Tim, you can go first.
For sure, during COVID, it was definitely a challenge collaborating. Like I mentioned, some of the tactics that we use, things like design sprints and hackathons, then that would mean that we couldn't meet physically. But as you've correctly put, then we're able to just rely on actually technology, so using, the regular platforms such as Zoom, etc. But another thing I think maybe I should mention when it comes to the collaboration that we actually had during COVID-19 was being able to engage with organizations from other parts of the world. We spoke to State Up. We had an event with iGov Africa that's based in Nairobi, Kenya, and really then building that knowledge base or learning from each other. So in terms of collaboration during that period, yes, it was really difficult. But what we were able to do then is to fall back and really take that time to rethink certain things. Yeah, whether it's even government engagement or really, like I said earlier, at the time, or I think selling the value proposition of technology and innovation in the civic or government space was a challenge. But with COVID-19, what we're able to see is that different actors were like, oh, okay, so this is actually important. Because there was a breakdown of services, and where already there was civic tech or gov tech in place, then things were easier. Yeah.
Let's bring you in, Munya, and speak a little bit to how the civic tech innovation was an enabler to collaboration. So, I mean, you've already mentioned using social media, but were there any context in which perhaps, the form of innovation available in one space isn't necessarily there in a different context, right? And how does the model pivot in that instance?
Okay, so I think I'll pick up from where Tim said we were doing hackathons as well. So essentially, with hackathons, our hackathons would be one-day event, a physical meeting at our space, and then we couldn't do that anymore. But actually, during COVID, we ended up doing more hackathons than we ever did, and because they were actually way cheaper to do virtually and less restrictive, so we just expanded the formats and changed it. Instead of doing it one day, we would do it over 4 days online, and then we'll use Slack. So instead of having a physical meeting, we'll just make sure that we have all the data sets on Slack available for participants to access, and then we'll just tell them the time frame to say, okay, the challenge starts at 8 a.m. Central African time, and it'll end on Friday at this time. And everything was virtual. There was no physical interaction, but it allowed actually more people to participate, and we ended up having an Africa-wide hackathon, which allowed us to tap into developers who are all over Africa who could participate. And I think for us, even in terms of like curating the hackathon, making sure that everyone submitted a pitch deck or a video of their solution, they were doing that online, which is something that they would not have done. They would not have done a video if it was physical. We would have had to record the video for them, but here they were, recording their own screen and submitting stuff. Even the judges that we ended up engaging, normally we would engage local judges from Zimbabwe, but then we opened it up. We realized that this was an opportunity to engage other judges, so we'd have judges spread out all over the world who could come in at any time and look at the pitches based on their time zone. And then that brought a different level of collaboration, and it allowed us to actually have those cross-country collaborations. And predominantly the developers that ended up winning were actually mainly from Kenya, because I think they have a strong hackathon culture, but also access to internet. It reflected that they had better access to internet and better resources, so they came more prepared for that, and that showed us the different dynamics that we're operating in, and the gaps that are there as well.
Oh, I love that. Hamid, over to you around basically the change in the model and the pivot during COVID-19. Have your forms of collaboration looked differently, and if they have they relied heavily on the civic tech initiatives or innovations rather?
I'm just adding some kind of. We went through it as for example, for the platform, like we went to a normal doctor and tell them like, give us your numbers, and when people through our platform, they can find their phone numbers, they can call them. Hey, I'm coughing. Hey, I'm like feeling this kind of things, and am I having a COVID? Should I go to the things? And sometimes is their WhatsApp, hey, can you just send me your video? I want to see your face. And it was like an assistance by real doctor, by psycholog, by a lot of people like working in the health sector, and towards the people. And it used to be a time of like when you use technology for people to consult a doctor. There was like, they don't believe in it, And through that COVID-19, now young people through child innovation and other hubs, they develop even like kind of and medical assistance through like a platform. They have some sort of a computer that will check your health, your things, and so this is the one part. The other part, we did a lot of hackathon, and it comes out also like people were using a lot of technology, like because they were even scared like to come. And when people gathered, so they said, okay, is it possible to send you like our proposal through internet? Is it possible to record a video? How to record a video? And they think also a lot. They come out with a lot of kind of idea, giving like information, for example, to fishermen, and to geolocalize, like a health center, and a platform against the gender violence based, like some young ladies came out with this platform, like, and we said, what's the link? And they said like, yeah. So during COVID-19, a lot of women went through a lot of difficult time. And so maybe men, we don't understand it maybe, but them, it's a thing. And through the use of digital, they can have a solution to link those kind of women to someone, maybe to even just listen to them, or they can call if they have a problem, if they are in trouble, they can get an assistant. So I can say, COVID-19 helped a lot of during that time, and people come a lot with a lot of solution. For example, one is to give real and accurate information for fishermen. And we said like, what is the link? And they said like fishermen goes to fish sometimes without knowing it. And even those agriculture, sometimes they goes to do things without having the right information. So if we give them the right information, they will not go selling, or they will not go together. So I believe, COVID-19 opened up a lot of Africans to the use of technology.
Mm. And I also think in a very interesting way, it possibly fostered even more collaborations than we could have imagined at the time. Because obviously, if we were only thinking of collaboration within a regional or physical context, then it obviously limits how far you can push the boundaries. I can actually even remember once when we all first met, and Tim mentioned, "Oh, we've actually been looking, to find some people that are working in Chad," and just by that, you guys haven't been in the same space, haven't met, but just the idea of literally using a platform or a digital innovation to connect opens up so many arenas of collaboration. Now, one other question I have been holding on to, and you might perhaps need to take some time to think about this, was like, what to do when collaborations go wrong, right? So, not to put a damper on the conversation, but I think that when it comes to civic tech, and um, specifically innovations that actually impact people's lives, it's we would hope that everything is idyllic and it works well, but sometimes there are real challenges that you find in the midst of undertaking a project and a collaboration. And the team and whoever is in charge at the time has to make that executive decision, whether it is on the spot or it is collaborative or collectively, around, do we continue or do we regroup and kind of start again? So I don't know if anyone wants to offer up, or if they have any ideas on how to tackle that. But I think if I was a young civic tech aspiring innovator, I'd like to have the tools on how to think through situations like that, because I think those are some of the learnings that are missing, right? We have lots of examples of successes, but perhaps there's more to learn in the failures and in the trials and the errors than there are sometimes in the clear-cut paths. So, yes. Anyone? Any takers? I see Munya is deep in thought. I can see the cogs are turning.
I can go. I can go. I think failing is always heartbreaking. But I think the thing that we've realized is always like there are lots of lessons and ways to pivot. And looking back in hindsight, that failure will always be a stepping stone towards something. If you don't let it get to you, if you don't give up, if you don't give up on that particular juncture. I know for us, when we started our Open Parley project, our website got hacked. We got a run-in with the government, and then the government tried to shut down our hub, and then. But those moments when we were facing real life challenges and attacks were moments where our relationship with the government became strained, but also where we had to take a step back and reevaluate what steps where we had gone wrong, where we needed to pivot, where we needed to change tactics. And in hindsight, if we hadn't done that, we probably would not have scaled as much, because we would not have gone to knock on those doors and asked for a sit down, or asked to mend some relationships, or talk, have real life conversations. and let go sometimes of certain things that were not working, because if it's not working, it's probably the universe showing you that you need to change you need to change direction. And I think as when we're building these solutions, sometimes we have this what you call it, Silicon Valley type of mentality, where like you gotta be successful, we think like all Mark Zuckerberg, but sometimes you have to realize that the failing fast is the best way to achieve your goal. Failing fast, failing forward, you learn better, you learn quicker, and the next time you try to do something, the lessons are there for you to reflect on and to jump over those particular hurdles.
Love it, and so spot on around it. Just very interesting also, just how important timing is as part of the journey, right? So many external factors, so many internal factors, and what you think sometimes is a missed opportunity is actually a redirection towards the pathway you're hopefully meant to be going to. Tim, have you thought of your example or your reflection on what to do when a collaboration is not going as planned?
I mean, Munya said it already. Really, you can't speak to innovation and technology without mentioning failure. Oftentimes it's inevitable. So it's really to, fail fast and fail forward. Pick up the lesson and move on. I think one of the things that we really try to do is really learn from such situations, or such. I don't know if you notice I'm hesitating to say failure, but really it's an opportunity to iterate. In tech and innovation, we say we're iterating. So you learn the lesson, you improve the product or the service or whatever it is, and you move forward.
I know from my own journey of social entrepreneurship, iterate is like the only thing that they basically try to drill into you, because it's not only it's only after you have walked the motions enough times that you're able to pick up where, yes, right, you can find the concept in the system that are creating the lag, you fix that, but you have to walk the talk to be able to see how it plays out, and where you might need to do better. Hamid,
I think maybe even just to add a little something, and also maybe I'd say don't be, how do I put it? Don't be stuck on an idea or sort of die with it. Feel free to pivot into something else. Yeah.
Yes.
Like I mentioned earlier, one of the things that we've noticed is you could be engaging with an innovator, an entrepreneur who's building something absolutely different, but there's a use case for it.
Failing is, I can say, is part of the game, and
Hamid,
Oh, sorry.
I think there was a bit of a lag.
Okay. Yeah.
You can come in, Hamid. And sometimes it is the technology that fails us. I'm just checking, Hamid, are you still there? Yes. Okay, I can see you moving, so you can unmute. Sorry, you can come in. Oh, Hamid has to unmute. Okay. Hamid, can you hear me?
yes, I can hear you.
Okay, there we go. So I was just saying, you can come in with your contribution around what to do when a collaboration is not going as planned.
Yeah, sometimes, as an IT engineer, sometimes we think everyone understand, well the concept, and sometimes we feel like, yeah, people get all over, and it's technology and it's a WhatsApp thing, sending a video on WhatsApp or sending something. It's very easy for them. But that's why how sometimes we fail, and we fail big sometimes. So that's where, like in the choice of your solution, you have to the designing, you have to include the users. That's where the user designer come from, and you have sometimes to speak to those people who are going to use your thing. Like, for example, translate, like I hear Mogama said, like, yeah, translating in the local language. This is very important. And the second part is how to use it. Maybe it's easy for me or team to send a WhatsApp audio or video. It's very easy to send like things, but for those kind of people, sometimes it's very difficult. And assuming, that the person knows thing, that's the where it fails. And we had a lot of failure on that system. And now we include, in the process, before like developing the solution, we include the users.
Definitely, definitely. So I'm just taking stock of our time, and we're going to need to wrap up soon. I want to start off by thanking all three of you for being here today and availing yourselves for this conversation. It's definitely been everything I hoped it would be. I feel like we touched on the successes, we touched on the challenges, but also we touched on the learning moments that come with the unexpected, right? So one of the key nuggets that I think I picked up from today was Hamid's term around speak like you're speaking to your grandmother. And that's really just around making sure that you're articulating what it is that you intend the collaboration to be around. Tim spoke about selling the value proposition, but then Munya came in and then reminded us that there is always context specificity that we have to be mindful of always in the application of our collaborative work, whether that involves civic tech or not. That you're not going to get the same results in every single space. And so the model and the approach is going to need to either be revised or pivoted or start from scratch completely, right? But some of the other important things are around language, right? So you can't communicate and we can't collaborate if we cannot understand each other. Hamid speaking around interpretation services, but also Munya touching on that. And I think one important thing is also finding the correct partner, right? So if we are trying to bring a vision or a collaboration alive, you have to be able to kind of match the impact and the intervention with who is best placed to do that if it is not you. And ultimately that there has to be a mutual gain, right, from the collaboration. If we had more time, I would have liked us to venture into the world of some of the power dynamics that also come with collaborations, right? Because one organization or one partner might hold more power or stand to gain more while the other one doesn't. Some other explorations of the topic are around incentivized collaborations, right? Because that's not necessarily something we spoke about, but some collaborations aren't always going to be organic. Some of them have to kind of have some inputs to make it happen. So really the topic is expansive and we could sit here all day long and speak about it. But before we really do close off, I would like our guest speakers to just give us a couple of closing statements. So if you had to say one thing to a young civic tech innovator that's dreaming about being in the space, knows that they need to work and partner with someone, but is scared about obviously the collaboration, what would you say to them to encourage them to perhaps put that fear aside and kind of make the effort towards partnering with someone, with an organization, or with another entity? So let's go, Munya.
I would say you're gonna miss 100% of the opportunities that you do not try. And what's the worst that could happen? The worst thing that could happen is someone could say no, and then you can move on. And then now you have feedback, and then you can move on to your next partner or your next potential partner, and there you have it.
Love it, love it. Hamid, what would your message be?
I will just add to Munya, you need references. You need references on in order to get the jackpot, you know. So go with the flow, look around, which kind of funding, adapt to the situation, get the small funding or the seed funding, and until you get the jackpot and do what you want to do. So you have to be, you have to adjust.
Yes. Okay. And Tim, closing us off, what would your message be?
All right. So my message to these young innovators, one would be build your product. Yeah. Whatever minimum viable product you can get out there, just do it. Or really define that process.
Yeah.
And then the second thing I'd say is storytelling. Sometimes and we say that maybe Africans were not as good at our storytelling, but storytelling, and damn good storytelling. There's always someone who's listening,
Yes.
even when you think you're speaking to yourself. But so those two things, that's what I'd say. And then don't be afraid to make those cold calls, those cold emails. With your product and your storytelling, you're bound to get something out of it. Yeah.
Love it. Such amazing and I think tangible and applicable forms of advice and messages that you've just delivered. So I'd like to thank you again. Hope you all have a great day further. And a big thanks again to the Global Festival of Innovation of Social Technology for having us here. This has been a really amazing session, and we can't wait to see what the rest of the festival has in store. Thank you so much for joining us, and we hope you enjoyed this discussion.
Thank you.